welcome back to a brand new episode of the Who What Now Gaming Podcast, the podcast for consumers by consumers, where we ask the questions: who are you, what got you into gaming, and what type of gamer are you now? I am your humble host, Josh Stewart, and today we decided that 1 week wasn't enough, so we brought him back again. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great. It's like I never left this room. You know what? I did use the restroom, so I did leave this room.
Yeah, man, it's been like a week since I've seen you.
Yep, I've been living in your restroom for a week.
Yeah, I've just all assumed that you've been living under my house the entire time anyway. Every time, like,
yep, that's me. I'm the gopher man.
Yeah.
I have a whole series of tunnels throughout this neighborhood.
Crawl into
Keeping
bed.
an eye on you.
I feel like I'm being watched, and I just don't know where it's coming from.
When you get into bed and it's a little extra warm, I was there.
Just pre-warming the bed.
You're welcome. That's
dude.
a service I offer. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's greatly appreciated, honestly. Hey, today, I think that we need to go down a subject that we have been discussing for quite a while, actually. And this was per your request, and I could not agree more. Because this is truly, like, it's definitely one of my favorite games of all time.
Yep, Battletoads.
It is the official episode for Battletoads.
No, not Battletoads. Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn, that's right.
Specifically Zero Dawn, and I wanted to start, there are two separate games, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I want to give one full episode to Zero Dawn and how it started, all of us into this universe.
Yeah.
And, like, talk about the universe, maybe be a little critical of things that happen, of the tribes.
Sure, of course.
Of Aloy herself.
Yeah, and I think I would even start to say that I think this was a breath of fresh air when this game came out, because it finally felt like a game that wasn't trying to be another game. And I mean that in, like, a generous way. Like, sometimes you play games where, it's whether you play Call of Duty or Fortnite or what's the other one, the other big battle royale game, PUBG, there you go. So, but they're all battle royale games. They're all the same concept, that you're doing the same thing anyway. So when Zero Dawn came out, I saw this and I was like, oh, this feels like a true open world, do as you please, with a nice linear story, but it stuck to its own, like, design, its own mechanic, and it's really cool because it technically it is a futuristic game where society has regressed.
Yeah. It's a fun naturalist steampunk, like, universe. Like, it kind of bridges that gap.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to it, and we'll talk about what's good and bad later, but it's it's machine based. There are machines all around you, but then there's also, like, primitive human beings who are just, like, making their own human culture, and
right,
like, deprived of all previous knowledge of, like, what people did, and that you're just seeing things that were made millennia ago, and you have no idea, like, what the hell is this? Like, you're in I think part of it specifically, you're in, like, Denver in the first game, and
I don't even know. I don't think I ever picked up on that detail.
The one I was replaying the game. I beat the whole story. I wanna try to 100% it, or at least get close. Something that I never noticed the first playthrough is there are these, or it's something I noticed but I missed this one. It's a lookout point of where you go, and you in the second game they're different. I don't want to bring that up. I'm gonna not bring up Forbidden West. There's lookout points in Zero Dawn.
We'll do an episode of Forbidden West.
Yeah. But the one is you're in this tall building. It's in an area that's just north of where the Nora tribe live in like their promised land. And it's you climb up this building and there's a sight point and your focus brings up what used to be the Denver Stadium.
Yeah.
And this would have been, it's like it shows you like a hologram of what it would have looked like, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Something that I missed, like, and same thing with, there's like a fortune teller that drinks the blood of machines. I missed that the first time I played.
Man. I think I probably also missed both of those because I like I said, I missed the fact that they were in Denver.
Well, yeah, it's part of that.
Or I just forgot. I don't know.
It doesn't matter, especially because you can be wherever you want. They set it up perfectly to where the Earth has changed so much.
Yeah,
that almost nothing is recognizable.
Right.
So
yeah, it's not recognizable like geographically, but it is. It's still like. It's like if like prehistoric tribes were like had full access to what made technology, without things actually being like technologically advanced. So some of the cool things is that like they still use like a crafting mechanic in a way, but not like a survival game crafting mechanic, but like you go and take some parts off of these off of these like mechanical creatures, and then you can make like armor and stuff from it. So it still has that like kind of like futuristic but regressed society feel to it, where it's like, oh, we have metal, but we don't know what it was used for. Like it could have been the door of a car. We don't call it a car. We just call it the metal box that's out somewhere.
The ancients, used to do all sorts of things with these,
right?
And like there's a few NPCs that kind of play on that, where you gather these collectibles, the cups. Basically, you're gathering mugs.
They're just mugs.
Aloy makes a joke in the beginning saying like, "You sure they didn't just drink out of these?" And the guy's like, oh, "Drink?
Yeah,
such finely crafted earthenware." Like,
yeah.
I do like that universe. It is a post-apocalyptic world, but it also feels like you've gone back in time.
Yes.
Even though it's obviously very far in the future.
Yeah, and one of the core mechanics of the game is that, and I think what makes it kind of unique, is that the creatures that you're not. So to be clear, you're not hunting the creatures. The creatures have kind of turned on society, but not in their own free will. I guess it's more of their programming. But the mechanical beasts very much replicate old like dinosaurs. And so you've got like these like I was kind of surprised there was not T-Rex in there, to be honest, but there's like
the Thunderjaw looks
it's close,
an awful lot like...
but it's like a longer neck. It looks honestly the Thunderjaw looks more like a Godzilla.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Little arms.
Yeah, well, it didn't have any arms. It's just the two hind legs.
It doesn't. No,
but it's just got missile launchers.
Yeah,
it's Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah.
They're all Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah.
Well, and it's you obviously major spoiler alerts. Like we're gonna be going through. Plot.
If you haven't played this one, I mean, it's been out for quite some time.
Yeah, it came out the same time that Breath of the Wild came out.
Did it really?
Mm-hmm. Around the same time. They were apparently it sold better in Europe for like the first week.
Wow.
But then Breath of the Wild was not that Horizon Zero Dawn wasn't like a big game, but like Breath of the Wild broke some records. It would have been a rough time to release a game, but like the fact that it still did so well attributes to how good the game is.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, it's I like the first game. It's not simpler than the next game, but like it's a great start. Aloy, like honestly, the game opens up with Aloy as a wee babby. Like you're literally a toddler, like a baby child, and you're given to Roth, who's just like climbing this mountain, and he's like, "Hey, we got a trip to do." He's like,
right.
You're just like, "Oh, that's our dad," obviously. And then, he goes and there's the naming cliff because of this specific culture. The Nora is their tribe.
Right.
And then names you on the cliff while the high matriarchs, they're not the All Mother. All Mother is their like deity.
Yeah.
The high matrons, that's what they're called in that tribe. And they there's only one that is like fine with this, and then there's one that is immediately saying like, this is an abomination, you shouldn't be doing this, and you don't really know why yet.
Right.
Like, or they mentioned that it's a motherless child,
right,
and they don't they don't define any further, and they Roth is taking care of you.
But Roth was selected because Roth was the only one.
Is it Roth or is it Rost? Now that I'm thinking about it more,
it might
R-O-S-T?
be. It might be Rost.
Yeah.
But either way, roast.
Our dog.
Yeah, our dog, our daddy. Is what the only reason that he was even selected was because he was the only one willing to be shunned by the entire.
He was already being shunned. He was already.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. He was already an outcast. Yeah.
Well, and you find that out later. I was going to bring that up later, actually. He's obviously raising you. You see that happen when you're a baby, and then the next pre-story that you're shown
is tutorial.
The tutorial. Aloy is a child.
Yeah,
I think she's
it got to be like
10.
Oh, I was gonna say 7, like 6 or 7.
Anywhere from 7 to 12.
Yeah,
I'm bad at
somewhere.
Children's ages. It's.
How old are you? You're anywhere between like 3 and 18.
There's a 100% chance that I am between the ages of 5 and 95. You see, you're a child Aloy, and you see these other kids picking berries and giving the berries to an adult, and they're being praised for it. And then you try to do the same thing, and she immediately
my God, I forgot about
turns
that.
away. Yeah, imagine like doing that to a child.
Dude,
like, don't talk to them.
I know.
Basically, I'm
gonna bring this Naruto, up a lot. Dude.
I never watched Naruto.
All right, listen.
I'm sorry. Forgive.
We need to get off that because, jeez. You got some catching up to do. Anyway.
Well, it's, imagine this. I'm going to look at it as like not an anthropological point of view, but your belief system makes you not talk to a child because the child doesn't have a mom, and you're just gonna treat this kid like shit and be like, oh, I hope basically just hoping she dies and we never have to see her or hear from her ever again.
Yeah,
but trash is that.
But it's also like, and it's not outright explained, and I think it's like the way that the story was written on purpose that way, because you're supposed to be starting the game knowing absolutely nothing, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're also viewing this world that you're about to discover and learn about, but you're now discovering it through the eyes of like a 7-year-old child. And so they don't explain why everyone's shunning you. You just get the feeling of like, oh, nobody fucking wants to talk to us. And then you the only person who's showing us any form of like, love and care is Ross. So it's like, well, what is going on in the world that is causing everyone to completely shun you? Now, obviously it is explained later.
Yeah,
that like
I think Rost explains it then that like because you were motherless, like we're outcasts. I think
that's how he explains it. He explains it because they're outcasts, and outcasts. It's like he almost, the way that I saw it was it's almost like the same way that like the Amish community operates, where it's like if you leave the Amish community and you're shunned, like that's it. Nobody talks to you. Nobody communicates. You don't visit family. You don't whatever. And so like I saw this as like very similar, but their reasoning, like their religion, their ideals, and what they stand for, doesn't follow like genuine like human interactions, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's very dare I say culty.
Yeah. Well, and so it's funny. I talked to our friend Noah about this game.
Has Noah played this game?
I think he played a little bit of it. He didn't get super into it. He wasn't a
Oh,
huge
really?
fan of the universe that it was building. But honestly,
Really?
I made a parallel saying that, like, wow, it's funny that you say that. The Nora reminds me of, like, being raised in a cult,
Yeah.
which Noah was.
Yeah. It's yeah. But the no yeah. Oh, are we gonna say it now, or are we gonna save it to later in the episode as to why she's shunned?
Well, I feel like we've brought it up now. I was gonna go over. You know that you don't know who your mom is. Like,
Correct.
you were
Right.
found as a baby, like
Yeah.
outside of this, like you were found in this super sacred place, but you're in a matriarchal society that
Yes.
literally gives, like, the way that you become a high matron is you need to have like 3 lines of progeny
Yeah.
unbroken. Like, once you're a woman and you give birth, you're someone of power. And
Yeah.
then if your child gives birth, you're even higher up, and then one more rank and you're literally top dog.
Right.
And there's only 3 of those.
Yeah, because you got to be able to outlive. You got to be 3 generations in and still like able to stand up on
Do
your
things,
own.
walk around.
Yeah.
And so that was something I was going to bring up. If we're looking at this, this is a video game, and everything happens perfectly how it needs to happen.
Of course,
because this is a video.
It's a story.
Game.
Yeah.
And so if this is actual, not prehistoric, first man that's trying to figure stuff out, you're learning, and it's just tribes fighting one another, there's going to be a lot less old people than there were in the game. I would be willing to bet that, like, you don't last that long.
I would almost, this is going to sound crazy, but I almost kind of disagree. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of, I think in any other form of society, you're 1,000% correct. I think that, is this our first disagreement? I think that
mark the occasion
because of this game's environment specifically, there are times where like you have healing agents, and like there are people who are like considered healers who just understand how to like craft the healing like stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, in the game you collect, was it like leaves or berries or something like that?
Yeah,
but like
your medicinal pouch.
Yeah, but people still have access
various plants
to like to like some like technologies and stuff. So I would almost argue that the medicine may not be advanced, but I think it would be more potent. Because like it's not modern medicine, but their understanding of it, while also like having access to the ancient world, like, because you also have to think like the monarchs of this world and the society, they only hold power because they've been around long enough and have had access to like these ancients information, which, I mean, if we think about it, could be that like one day you were out looking for a place to settle and you came across a hospital, and then the Bible that they found, it might have just been like a pre-med book.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So like now they're now roaming the earth saying like, oh, this is the book that we follow. Whereas, we in our society would recognize it as like a pre-med student's like, introduction to medical society's book.
Yeah. I was along the lines of thinking that they were much less advanced in the ways of anatomy. They don't know, again, it's not modern medicine. They don't have x-ray machines, but they do, they have access to like very strange advanced, quote unquote advanced, like not programs, mechanics, because of the machines. And it is, I like, the more you think about it, it is kind of a strange, it's a strange world that they've created. There are some animals, like there are boars and turkeys and foxes and rats and rabbits. Well, and so
boars.
But then there's also, a long leg, which is a machine. It's a giant chicken. That's what the long legs were. A snap maw is just a big alligator.
Yeah. Then there's that weird anteater looking thing that's got a big old poison back.
Bellowback.
Yeah.
Either acid or freezing bellowbacks. I think
there's a couple fire ones.
Yeah,
because you can make them explode and take out a couple of the other ones and stuff. But then there's also societies who have managed to I almost said befriend, but they're they more like controlled their like
the
mechanical states.
The Banuk.
Yeah,
they man, that's the tribes in the first game. I thought that they were very interesting. The Oseram, their whole culture is based around salvage, and it's based around these machines that people go and fight, and then like, oh, what are these? Like, they fall apart, and you're like, let's try to figure this out. This is man being, having ingenuity and like figuring. They were deprived of prior knowledge of like mankind, and so they're just figuring it out on their own. Deep down, I don't know how society would have evolved, in like the fact that everybody still speaks English.
But I also think that's for like the gamers experience, because
there's no way that you would be able to.
Right.
Did you play Far Cry Primal?
No, but I want to. It's still one I want to play.
I liked it more so than I thought I would. It took me a second try to get back into it, but it is a Far Cry game. It follows the Far Cry like pattern.
Yeah.
At least I'm thinking like Far Cry 3 and 4.
Yeah.
You liked Far Cry 5 quite a bit.
I enjoyed it.
Noah liked it quite a bit as well,
really liked it
because he got to kill cult members.
It's just coming down.
Just going
to
back
to
it. Man. Anyway, back to 80s.
I would love to get into like a Far Cry like series, like just discussion and breakdown, because those games. Hot take, and we'll honestly we'll get right back into Zero Dawn, but hot take is that I don't believe that the Far Cry games are that good. I think what makes them good is that I think what honestly makes them good is that they've cracked the code and made them incredibly enjoyable. And that's what makes them fun. Okay. I think if you took all of the mechanics that we love, like if like genuinely like think of all the Far Cry games and take like all of the things that you truly love about the game and pull them away, I bet you still have everything that made the story.
Yeah, I think.
I genuinely think like if you took all the stuff away and you just made it like take all the extra stuff you could play and make it a linear story, the games are shit. And I that's just a weird, like, I've felt like that and that's the thing is like I've loved all of the games. I love them. They're very, very fun. But that's what I love about the game is that they're fun. I can do things the way that I want to do them. But when it comes to the story, if you picked a game and told me, hey, what's the story behind this? Except for, I think it's 4, where you, I think it's the one guy who like invites you to his house and he tells you to hang out, but then you leave, and that's what like starts the like triggers the whole thing.
And
but
if
like
you didn't leave, then the game would just
end. Yeah. And that's the thing is like I feel like as the story is, they're so simple. They're just, it's like, hey, this guy's trying to kill you. You're doing everything you can to stop it.
Stay alive.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of the game. The fun aspect of it is playing the game and finding those strategies. But if you take all of that away, the story isn't worth it. It's not a good story. Each one of them is just one psycho thinks that he's like God's gift to ruling the planet, and you find a way to make that harder on him, and then the the bad guy of the game gets pissed off enough that he either kills himself, fucks himself up enough that you have a chance to kill him, or gets away, but he's no longer a harm to like society. And that is the general basis of every single game. And if I'm wrong, I would love for you to tell me in the comments, but I like honestly, dead ass, like take away all the fun aspects of the game and tell me the story is good. And I'll take it.
It's one of these times we'll do a breakaway episode, because I could talk about Far Cry 3. And, you know, I like Far Cry 3's story. And you brought up Far Cry 4. Honestly, again, I think that there's a lot more to the story. It's a good story. You know, what is a good game if not an enjoyable game?
No, and that's what
makes a game good.
Yeah, they're super good, and the stories are good. I just think they're too simple for how complex the game is.
Okay.
I don't think I think that they spent more time on the game mechanic than they did the story of the game and the writers and the developing like actual like protagonistic like moments and scripted areas where you could say like, oh, I'm going in here and this is the reason, or this is the background, this is the who, the why, the how we did everything that, you know, occurred. But instead they're like, hey, there's just an asshole in a tower somewhere who's wreaking havoc on this part of the world, and for some reason you're the only one that can stop them.
Yep.
And then you're like,
you're the superhero.
Got it. Let's make 5 of these games.
You are a superhero in Horizon Zero Dawn. Back to Horizon Universe.
Yeah.
You're
a hero in the sense that everyone else
is an NPC.
Yeah. but also because you have I almost called it the Omnitrix. You're not Ben 10.
Never watched it.
Jesus.
Sorry. You can just call me Tom.
Nobody's has the little
the focus.
Yeah, the focus.
Yeah. Well, and so there are a few others that have focuses, and so they
focus eye.
Foci.
Foci.
Fuck
for short.
Yeah. FOQ. Fuck. Nobody else is figuring things out like Aloy does,
right?
And you know, again, it is a video game. That is the story. But also in canon, in the way that I love to look at a video game and just like lean in and make the video game the reason that it makes sense on its own. And like you're basically a clone of Dr. Elizabeth Sobek, who
and there it is
was like the super genius back in the day.
Yes.
And you know that dives into the overlying story, which is like you are trying to find out what happened. And
and you were cloned by accident, if I remember correctly.
It's not quite by accident. That was done by Gaia, the AI,
right? But you weren't the first clone.
You weren't the first clone. Cloning was a thing that existed
in the old world.
In the old world, quote unquote. Yeah. Honestly, there's an interesting timeline. It's like I think it's like 2034. They call it the clawback era. And
get ready.
Oh yeah. In on Earth in the 2030s.
We got 10 years and everything's going to shit.
Counting down, baby. And so it, you know, everything goes to shit. There's geological disaster. Like nature is hurting us.
Yeah, the plates on the Earth are shifting and it's causing like disruptions to ecosystems and we're having like there was like volcanic like eruptions and stuff happening all over the place, but
hurricanes constantly,
and which kind of feels like 2020 up to 2024. I mean, you know, shout out Hurricane Judas Priest or whatever it's called now.
I missed the one that's coming up soon.
Oh no, it's not. Priest. Yeah, it's not soon. It's been happening.
It's going on right now. Is it the tropical storm that's?
Yeah, the one that like absolutely ripped through everything. We've just been hitting the backlash of like the last like week.
Wow, I'm out of the loop.
Well, we're far enough away that it doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah,
but that's society, right? As long as it's not in our backyard, we don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like aliens. Until they affect our everyday lives, nobody's gonna care. Unfortunately, except for me, I care. Aliens.
Yeah, dude, seriously, pick me up because Earth sucks.
Anyway,
I'll bring a podcast to you.
I called it the clawback period, but that's because it was the aftermath of all these disasters, and people are finally coming together and they're working together.
Yeah.
And like there were a lot of people that died. Like it wasn't quite a mass extinction event, but a lot of people died, and so now they're like trying to not recreate society, but make it better.
Well,
a lot of things are becoming automated.
So why? Let me. I mean, obviously we know, but like the transition
at this point.
Yeah, the transition point. Why are the machines out?
So the machines exist in the Horizon Zero Dawn universe as a part of the Zero Dawn program, which recreated the Earth.
Yes.
It will speed up. There's the clawback era, and then things are going better, and then the Pharaoh Plague happens, which takes over these army robots. Military robots exist, and now it's like an AI military robot, and now we can't control them. Like they were made...
it was a virus.
Yeah, well, and it was, they called it a glitch to where it stopped obeying orders, but we can't, they can't be hacked. And this is another thing where it's in any other kind of robot, they can hack those as well.
Yeah, well, it was a virus that so the mechanical beasts that roamed were they were the only creations that were not affected by the Earth basically falling apart.
I actually think that what you're thinking of, like the grazers and the chargers, like the machines that you see as Aloy, I don't think that they existed before the Zero Dawn project, because
they were afterwards.
Hephaestus, or one of the sub programs that like they're there to cultivate the Earth again, which is
they were there to do the research, to process, and to what do you call it when you hand something out, not exchange,
distribution.
Distribute like new health and life and seeds and like kind of like rebuilding the planet. But the issue is that the virus that hit is Gaia the central hub? Whatever the central hub is, there was a virus that kind of got in there and basically created its own like Hades thing or whatever.
So you're jumping a little bit, but
am I?
You are. And I'm glad that I replayed this first one.
Yeah,
because it makes it a little more wishy-washy once you play Forbidden West, or not wishy-washy, but it gets more confusing. Before, the thing that caused this, like the Pharaoh Plague, is out of control, self-replicating army robots that literally feed off biological matter and are just killing everything. And so, like, the plan, Elizabeth Sobeck was hired by Ted Faro, the guy that made all this, the villain,
right,
the big bad, even though he's dead. It was his fault. Elizabeth Sobeck is trying to...
That was a cool aspect, by the way, of the game, to make your big bad
just something
already
dude.
Of the past.
Oh yeah, well, and it's like, there are so many people that we can make parallels from Ted Faro to that exist in our society right now. It's wild. And like just trying to cover things up. I'll get. It does,
but I think that's a good. I think it's a good point, though. Like, I think what also makes this game so brilliant is that it stays just far away enough to not be relatable, but just close enough where it's possible.
Oh yeah, you look at these things and you're like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah,
like, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, and so anyway, the Zero Dawn project is Elizabeth Sobeck realizing that we can't win. Humans, life as we know it will come to an end at the hands of these killer robots that are sentient, basically. And not sentient, but like self-governing, at least.
Yeah. They're not self-aware, but they are.
Well, and they're
living.
self-replicating, and they use, like, they send out the things that just, like, in the first game, you only see one robot send out these things that just, like, kills a tree. It just kills a tree right away, like, withers it away into nothing, and that robot gets energy. In the second game, it's actually like you're given, like, that could happen to people too. Like, literally, just like, we're just a skeleton And now that robot is like, it's it's using my fat stores to like move its engines.
Man, you genuinely like talking about this makes me want to really play this game again, like right now.
You should. All right. But so the idea is that humanity locks itself away, and then we like it's gonna the Earth will end. The world will end before we would be able to figure out the code. We're having these supercomputers work on the code to stop the Pharaoh machines.
Right.
But we're not going to last that long. And so the idea is to let the Earth die off. And then when the code is done, the robots get shut down. And then Gaia, the AI, is kind of in charge of all of this. And then once the robots are done, it's Gaia's job to recreate the world. And at first it is they send out like the Stormbirds are just to like help the atmosphere, because toward the end people couldn't be outside and breathe, like the oxygen count was too low. There weren't enough plants on Earth to make our atmosphere viable for human life. Excuse me.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was like, I think that's maybe where I got like the mixed up from, because like a lot of the machines are like, while you're playing the game, are there to help like spread new life. And then there's like machines that are specifically built to like fly so they can help with like air quality and stuff.
Yeah, they're like,
but then there's like
air, and then same thing in the water too.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Self-filtering the water,
and like even like the billowbacks, like you were talking about, like how they have like these like the poison chemicals and stuff. They're specifically because they're like pulling, like it's a tank that they're like drawing from and stuff. And so it's like this whole thing where like everything's working together to like rebuild the planet, but there's something that's gone wrong where they're not identifying us as, or like the people, they're not identifying them as like new creations. They're identifying the people as like still like viruses that need to be wiped from the earth so that it can be rebuilt.
So in the like when people were finally coming to be after the machines, this is after Zero Dawn.
What was the DLC for that game?
Something north. The northern.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
not the Northern Wastes. That's from Fable.
Yeah, it was definitely something north.
But either way, you go to the north. It's damn.
I was just curious. I couldn't remember the name of it. I didn't know if you knew.
It was all right. It doesn't do a ton for the story.
No, I think it was just a DLC. Like it
was good.
Just to have you do more stuff.
It gives you big, bears to fight.
Yeah,
machine bears that are huge and fiery. I love these games, but it's the robots. Yeah. The robot beasts were there at first to help, get the Earth back on track and like purify water and get the seas like habitable. And then human life was it was started in these I don't know, they called them cradles, but I think that cradles is what, maybe I'm thinking of mother's cradle. Either way, it's not cloned. We just took human DNA and you were like made in an incubator.
Yeah.
And then you were raised by a robot. But the robots only had knowledge up to like raising a 5-year-old, like a kindergartner. And these robots were your mom, they were your teacher, they were also like, they punished you if you did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so human beings grew up around them, and then eventually like they took back, or they overthrew and like destroyed the robots, and then they were forced out into this world that they had no knowledge of, like literally they're inside for their whole lives, and then all of a sudden they're out. And at first the machines, it's not that there's a virus and they don't recognize you. Honestly, they talk about how before Aloy was born, that this was like pre when the viruses came. So it's not the virus, but it's basically a signal that has Hades kind of take control.
Right.
And so Gaia realizes that like Hades is out of control. In order to save the planet, I'm gonna self-destruct. And the machines are already there, but then at that point the machines, They just don't they don't mess with you. They will, if you provoke them, they fight back. But honestly, it's more of they always run away. Where, and now while the game is taking place, things don't really run away. They see you and they get aggroed, and then they attack you. Unless, it's like a herd of grazers or the lance horns. They're basically like deer.
Yeah.
Those, they'll run, but then they'll come and charge back at you.
The Watchers are the ones that'll seek you out, and they're constantly looking for you.
Yeah,
hence the name.
That is their job. Well, and
these little weasel-looking things with these big-ass eyes.
Yeah, a big weak spot that you get to see right there. I wonder where you should shoot me.
Where do we shoot these guys? Huh?
Yeah. But so then it's Gaia, well, before she self-destructs, is she, I don't, this is all technology that can communicate with itself, and Gaia decides that it is going to make a clone of Elizabeth Sobek.
Yes.
And she is she will have the alpha clearance, and then she'll be able to save the world again. And that is kind of what you're doing. At first you're Aloy, and your entire what drives you, your motivation is being a part of the Nora tribe. You're raised as an outcast, and then you're told, hey, there's this thing called the Proving, that once you're a young adult, you can run in the Proving, and if you finish it, you're a brave. And even if you started as an outcast child, you can do that. And if you win, you're granted a wish. And then you can, your wish could be, she could find out what the fuck, why am I an outcast?
Well, she could figure out why she's an outcast, but she could also find out, or she could also be finally accepted into a society, and they would have to accept her.
Yeah. Well, and she wouldn't even have to win in order for them to, they wouldn't have to accept her. They would probably.
That's true. I say that as in their rules say that they would have to, but they don't actually have to do shit.
Right. It goes back to people. But so you run in the Proving, you win the Proving, and you're like, yeah, everything's fine, and just all hell breaks loose. Literally.
Actually, you don't even finish the Proving.
You do finish.
Mm-mm.
You do.
Nope. You get halfway through, you find you're doing the obstacle course, and somebody sabotages your shit, and so you decide to take a detour. So you're running the opposite thing, and so you see somebody get shot at or falls or something, and your thought is I want to win this because that's who Aloy thinks that she needs to be. But Aloy, as a compassionate person, tries to help. And that guy is that's when the shadow shadow Karja show up, and they shoot the arrows, and that's when Roth knows your skill and knows how your abilities are, and knows that you should have finished this course by now, and that's when the rest of the tribe, the Nora, end up heading towards your area as you've already started fighting the shadow Karja. And so that's what spawns the big disagreement thing. Because that the only reason I say is because that was the one thing that I remember, is that you that was the one thing I wanted so bad for Aloy was to finish, to win, and you're never granted that because you're accepted solely because you save lives, not because you won the Proving.
So
you were nominated as a victor because of your careless act, not and technically no one finished the Proving in the beginning of the game.
Weird. See, when I played it, I know what you're talking about. The person, you have your trophy, and then it gets sabotaged, and so then you need to get another trophy. Once you have that trophy, you start running in the Proving, and then you, Aloy, realize that you're in last place. And they even say oh, there's no way you're going to win now, but then you take the shorter route that's more dangerous. And so when I played, you get there first, and then you set the trophy down, and everybody that is there then starts getting killed by the eclipse.
See, I don't remember it finishing. I mean, I wholeheartedly, I could be wrong, but the way that I'm remembering is I don't think anybody finished. I'll have to look it up.
I very vividly remember finishing and being the victor, and then the only reason The only not everyone dies. You help some people get away.
Yeah. 100%.
But then like the guy that you think, you see as a child and you can like hit him with a rock. Oh, the choices thing. I didn't even bring that up. Anyway, either way, the choices aren't super important which dialogue box you say. That's the only thing that it changes. But I'm thinking that he's going to be like that's our rival. Nope, dead.
Yeah.
And like same thing with the girl that you thought was going to be your friend. Dead. But then you're friends with her brother. And they're also the daughter of the war chief.
Dead.
Or the kid.
Just kidding. I was just
not Varl. Yeah. Varl, he's the son of the war chief. Yeah. He is not a daughter.
Obviously. I will say if I'm wrong, then they wrote it wrong. They should have wrote it the way that I said it. But the way that I remember, I don't know. I'll have to go back and replay it because that is out of the whole game. Oddly enough, the beginning of that game is the most memorable. It's such a great introduction to the world and like the societies that surround the entire Nora culture. And the funny thing is, like with the first game, you realize how little the Nora really are in comparison to the rest of what's going on around you in like what the first game allows you to play in, and then where the second game completely expands to.
Well, and the Nora also have a way of thinking that you're not allowed to leave their sacred lands.
Yeah.
And if you do, you get shunned. But then, once you, when you win the way that I remembered it, when you win the proving, you're fighting, and then you win the fight, you have a cutscene, and it's Helis. Helis ends up being like a later antagonist. He's like the human side of your antagonist.
Right.
And Helis like is holding you up and like about to drop you off this cliff.
Yeah.
And that's when Ross showed up and like saved you. But then there's still a big explosion that kills Ross. You know that Ross is dead.
That was the hardest damn part of that whole game.
That was rough.
That one, like, it still hits. Like, that was a rough. And then because like later in the game, part of like your like missions and stuff, you go back and like there's moments where you have the opportunity to go and like pay your respects to like his grave.
I didn't. The first time I played it, I never went back to his
monster.
Grave. I didn't even. I was like,
where do you think he was?
Well, they even say that there wasn't much of him to bear because of the explosion, and so I never thought about it. But yeah, playing again, I went back to Ross's grave, and you can like sit and keep telling.
Yeah, like, you can talk to him.
You give a tell him things that are going. Version of the story.
Yeah, you go and like depending on where you are, like in the game, like you can like big plot points. Like she'll give her point of view as to like what was going on, like in her mind and stuff. It's really cool.
Well, and so once you finish. Oh, the thing that leads to this, the shadow card just showing up,
right
before the proving, you're in Mother's Embrace, which is, I think it's Mother's Embrace and not Mother's Cradle. It's a place within the Nora lands, and you're walking around. You're about to do this ceremony where you like let a light go, and you see Olin, who is another character, and Olin has a focus, which the thing that's in your ear, and then ding, ding.
A very popular person.
Olin sees you, but then Hades sees you through Olin's focus. And that's what starts, because Hades recognizes you as Dr. Elizabeth Sobek. And what is it? Entity, hostile entity or something like that. And so that's what sends the Eclipse and the Shadow Card to the Nora Sacred Lands at that point, because they're there to kill you.
Right.
Hades is at this point trying to take over the world again. And so Aloy doesn't know this, obviously. She, falls a great distance and then is like brought into their sacred lands, into the sacred mountain to recover. And it was against the wishes of one of the high matrons. But you win the proving, and people tell you that like you're the only reason that anybody survived.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna correct myself. You were correct, and I just remembered it. Like just the two major plot things in that end or in that beginning, I guess, is what I mashed. She does in fact win, but it's like moments after winning that they are ambushed. It's like within. It's like, seconds. Hey, you did it, and then also,
somebody
no, you did.
Shot
yeah,
with an
like
arrow.
yeah.
Well,
that sucks. Sorry, world. I don't even know why I do this podcast.
You might as well quit. It's Tom's podcast now. Video game talk with Tom.
Pass the reins over.
It's you spend so much time in this story, and you're learning things as Aloy, and then from there you are given permission. You're made a seeker, which is you can venture out and figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, you have what is it called? Diplomatic like immunity. Wherever you go, you are allowed to go anywhere.
Actually allowed to leave. You're one of the very few Nora that can leave the sacred lands without being shunned.
And it's so weird because the Nora are almost represented as like the highest of societies. Like the Nora do not leave Nora society.
The Nora think that they're the highest of societies.
Yeah, but like when you go to like the different like tribes and stuff, like everyone knows of the Nora. Well, most of them know of the Nora,
but
like
savages.
Yeah,
savage Nora.
When you like go into doing this stuff, like Aloy's perspective is like, yeah, they all kind of suck, but like that's my people kind of thing. And then everyone kind of like they talk shit, but it's also like we know not to, like we don't
go there.
Yeah, we don't like trek in on their areas.
Mostly for them, it's like it's real cold there. Fuck that. Yeah. The one thing, you spend the beginning of the game fighting against being an outcast, and then the rest of the game, everyone is like, "Oh, Aloy of the Nora, Aloy of the Nora." Yeah. When you go through the Hunter's Lodge quest mission line, and it's the one time that she really talks about it with her hawk, which is like the name for the mentor,
right?
And she says that instead of being called, like, she brought up the fact that she was an outcast and that she had to fight for everything, and like literally nobody talked to her until she was 18 or whatever,
right?
And so she says that maybe I should be called Aloy despite the Nora, and like I loved that. I'm so glad that I remembered that line, because this is a world, Aloy's growing up thinking like, I want to be a member of my tribe.
Right.
And then right as she gets that, she's actually at this point like, damn, now I got to go save the world. And it's, it's a quick jump to that.
And it is also kind of funny how quickly you're accepted so like, and how do I put this? Other tribes in this game seem to accept you based on your worth, which is what you help and provide and like help improve their way of living, their society, their trades, their whatevers. And so like when you first go and like show up to like a new area, and they're like you're just a stranger, we don't give a shit about you, and you're like, oh, I'm Nora, and they're like, yeah, that's honestly cool, yeah, we don't care, kind of thing. But they're like, what we do care about, this problem that we have, and it needs to be fixed. And then when you do it, they're like, hey, we really appreciate you. And then you're like accepted. And like, I think back to when, and maybe just Ross didn't know, but it almost seemed like when they got shunned, she probably would have had a better childhood if they were like, fuck the Nora, we'll just go somewhere else. Like literally anywhere else would have been just fine.
Rost was a proud Nora tribes member.
Yeah.
He was. So later you find out from one of your high matrons that I think that's who tells you.
Yeah.
That Rost was his family was killed in the Red Raids, which the Karja, the Red Raids, the Karja is a different tribe. They came and like kidnapped Nora. They literally go and just like take them by the bunches because they thought that if they sacrificed people to the sun, that things would be better. It's a strange parallel to like the Aztecs.
That was the first thing I thought of too. Yeah.
And that I think that is where they got the Karja from, and then like the Oseram, they work with the Karja, but they're more of like they're tinkerers, and it's all about the like, killing machines and then salvaging and
that actually does kind of spawn something here, and we're just about at an hour, which is insane. I don't know how we do this.
I forgot to even finish my first thought about Ross being a Death Seeker. He got the permission to be a Death Seeker. He went out. He found the people that kidnapped his family. He murders them brutally. And then he goes back to the Norlands and realizes that like he did this whole thing knowing farewell that he would now be an outcast and he's just gonna like live,
and he was okay with it,
outskirts of society, and he stuck with it, and he didn't even like try to get back in and be like, come on guys,
because that was the deal. That was the deal. He was like, listen, we will turn a blind eye to this and let you do what you need to do, but this is your consequence, and this is what you have to live with.
Well, and one more thing that I wanted to bring up, literally very beginning of the game, when Ross brings you to the naming cliff and like holds you up, has the Simba moment and yells Aloy. The other high matrons come, and the one, I can't remember her name, Talana maybe, she Ross said that like I was bid with like taking care of her, and she said like to care for her, not to love her. And what, like, I understand that it is a video game and it's just character building, but like, man, what kind of society breeds that in a great grandmother? Being like, well, fuck this little girl in particular, because she ain't got no ma.
Right, but what? She knew why. She knew why she didn't have a mother, though.
I don't think any of them really knew. They knew that she was a product of the mountain.
They don't know exactly why, but they
even
do
contemplate.
Know. They do know that she was born of something that is not human.
Yeah, exactly. That's what scared them, and because they were afraid of things that they didn't understand, because they're,
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was, I think it also speaks a lot about the culture and society that the game or the developers created in this world, and that like the big thing that we've been dancing around this entire time is that like all these beasts are mechanical. So we don't hunt them for food. No. We hunt them for parts and stuff, but it's only because of like having to survive and stuff. But also like a society with primitive fighting tactics and weaponry and stuff,
spears and bows and
arrows. And but then finding a way that like they're like, okay, if I come across this beast, we know that if I get like a watcher, if I can get the spear point just behind the soft spot of behind the the neck or whatever, where like the wires are like exposed, we can take them down, or we can sever the communication, whatever things, and then you can collect those parts. And these that's like spawned these tinkerers who like technically are like blacksmiths, right? Yeah. But they create, like, instead of an arrow having like a nice sharp pointy arrow tip, it might be a blunt like tip with like an explodey thing attached to it or something.
Yeah.
So that when the impact hit or makes contact, it might blow off a piece of metal, allowing that soft like underbelly to be like exposed and stuff. And so like the way of thinking that they have to like kind of develop over the years to be able to just survive in a society like this, I think adds that extra level of detail that I don't think is like, it's a cool mechanic in the game, but I think it's overlooked because like, you're thrown into a game into a society that's already developed. And so like they've already have a way of doing things. And the tutorial pretty much teaches you this, except Ross teaches you how to like hunt and stay away from the watchers and stuff. As you play the game and you use the focus, you like see the weak points. You see the way that their flow goes,
where
the way
they're moving,
the way they're moving and everything. Yeah. But it's like the only way that you can, like, the focus doesn't tell you how to defeat the machines.
Right.
The focus just tells you about it's just an informational Bluetooth. That's all it is.
It's a tool. Aloy has this real fancy tool that she knows how to use better than all but one other person.
Which is really funny because
we didn't even talk about Silence this whole episode.
No.
First time I've said his name.
It's really funny that like the focus is not like a superpower or an ability. It is like if you went back in time to a primitive society and forgot your phone there. That's all it is. You know what I mean? Like somebody picks up, think about it. Like somebody picks up your phone. You've time traveled. Someone picks up your phone and they figure out how to use it better than anyone else. Everyone's like, that guy's a superhero. And you're like,
it's a wizard.
No, yeah. You're like, no, I just, have a phone. And that's except this, device just allows you to see the patterns, and it's a VR, like it inside your head, but it doesn't make Aloy better than everyone else. It just gives Aloy a better tool that the rest of society refuses to use.
Yeah, well, some of them refuse to use them.
Well, those who aren't really a part of a society, besides like actually not even the Shadow Carja. Like they're not like there's only select few who will even use it, and even they have to be of like certain stature to like even what was it, Orin or whatever?
Olin.
Oh,
well, so an Olin had one because he was a part of this Shadow Carja plan, but it seems like there's only one other person that really thought to dive into the focus, and that's Silence, which is, a character that we could talk about next time. Honestly, we still have half a game to talk about.
I would love to do another one.
Hell yeah. Just on Zero Dawn. And we didn't come to the point.
Well, I think
the biggest factor is that initially humankind was supposed to restart with all of its prior knowledge.
Right.
And the thing that Ted Faro did that is the worst is that he he didn't want everyone to know that it was his fault that the world literally fucking ended.
Yeah.
And so he decided everyone will be better off just relearning math, like things that took us hundreds and thousands of years to discover. Good luck.
Yeah, but it's also
not my fault. Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, but you remember like what we said earlier, where it's like being able to compare things where it's not exactly relatable, but it's also possible. It's the entire game survives in a society that was deprived of information.
Oh yeah.
And because of it, the rest of everything else falls apart, and we have war and hate and sacrifices and stuff, solely because one person, right? And solely because one person didn't want one piece of information coming out, deprives an entire society of like dire information. Kind of feels a little familiar.
What? No.
Like it is a solid game, and I think I'm gonna go back and play it this week and probably next week. Like it's
hell yeah. It's got a new setup so I can play it while Wendy's watching her housewives shows.
Nice.
I keep calling them Desperate Housewives, but it's the Real Housewives that she watches. Desperate Housewives is a whole different ball game.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know. I'm saying yes in ingredients.
Jersey Shore and Love Island. Those are Wendy's shows, and now I have, I can play PlayStation and have the headphones, and I won't even bother her, and she can say things, and I can go, "That's great, honey." Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. My wife is my wife really enjoys her books. Like truly enjoys just like honestly just reading her books. And so it's really funny because like any media stations in the house have just been mine. Like if I just sit down to watch a show, like
media
person. It's like honestly, like she just blasts through books and she truly loves it. Like it's not like, oh, I'm trying to be nice and let them have like TV time. It's just like
it just fits well.
She just genuinely loves reading books, and I hate reading in general, and we just work perfectly.
Nice.
Tom, we definitely have to continue this conversation with another episode.
It'll give me more time to do some more research too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna play the game again before we do our next one. I want to have you completed have you completed Forbidden West yet?
I beat the main game.
Okay.
I haven't played the DLC.
All right.
And that is something that I need to do, because I understand that that's kind of like the end of the story.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is because I don't remember it.
I don't know.
Does it set the game to have another? Because the only reason I say this is we've had the North, we've had the West.
Had time. Yeah,
are we going to have
a couple more cardinal directions?
Yeah, are we going to have the maybe okay South and the determined East? You know, like
the encouraged East.
Yeah, the forbidden West, the encouraged East. Yeah.
I don't know.
The not so north to the south.
Where I finished in Forbidden West, I knew that there was going to be more. It's set up for there to be a little bit more, even though that you've kind of saved the day.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. Well, and at the end of the first Horizon, you save the day, but you haven't. There's still more going on, and you're not really made aware of that.
What'd you think of? And this will be our last question. We'll wrap everything up here. What'd you think of when you finished? Well, I'll do a part 2 question here because I feel like they bleed into each other. But when did you play the first game? When did you play Zero Dawn?
Oh man, that's a good question. Honestly, it might have been during COVID.
Okay, so the game had been out then.
Yeah, a couple of years already.
Right. So when did you play Forbidden West?
Less than a year after.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because when I played Zero Dawn when it came out. I did pre-order on that one. I knew that it was one of those it was one of those games I had.
You knew
I knew it was going to be good. I loved the concept. It was just I was in from the beginning, and I got it pre-order, and played it and loved it. And then years went by before Forbidden West comes out, and then I pre-order Forbidden West. It comes out, and I play it. And the thing that drove me absolutely bonkers about starting the next game is that it had been 6 years since Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, but in game it picks up 1 week later, and I'm like, it's been 6 years. You think I remember in game 1 week ago? Fucking no. So then I had to stop the game. Like, I was so pumped to play the game, and I paused it because it wasn't like, here's the recap. I mean, there's a recap, but it's not like, here's the recap of everything.
Yeah,
it was like, here's everything of the story so far, and then it's like, bang, and it's like, hey, Aloy, haven't seen you in a week. And I'm like, buddy, it's been 6 years. You're gonna have to give me a recap on who you are.
Is that Varl? It's probably dude, Varl right off the bat.
I was like, hang on. So I had to hit a pause, go to YouTube, and I was like, oh damn it! All right, everything that happened
is this. Man, yeah,
it was rough, man.
I'm glad that I played it the way that I did because I had much more insight. I didn't have to go back and double check. I swear that it was less than a year between when I played the first one and the second one.
Yeah,
I think it just worked out well. I was probably playing the first one just shortly after the second one came out or something.
Oh yeah,
knowing that I had a whole other game now.
Right. That's always that's always so nice.
I like that. That's perks of being in 2024.
I'll tell you. God, do you imagine where all of this would have been if I started this in 2020 and had the full it? I probably wouldn't have played as many games as I did.
These chairs would be hover chairs. We would have big Technicolor glasses.
All because of this podcast?
Yeah, 4 years would have passed. We would have advanced so much faster.
Tom, it is an absolute delight having you on the show.
A pleasure to be here, Josh.
I truly love these conversations. This is so good. We tried a new setup for those watching. We are within leg touching distance. We've been holding hands the entire show.
Footsie.
Yeah, it's still such a small room. But Tom, we appreciate everything that you have brought to our show and the conversations, and this is truly an absolute treat. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
is there anything that you want to plug for this episode?
I will again shout out Moonstone Manor if you're looking for a bed and breakfast or an event space, look us up. www.moonstonemanor.com.
Ooh, gotta make
you
sure
don't actually need the W's.
Gotta spell out dot though.
Yep,
you have
D-O-T.
to do that.
And then you hit the com button.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to find me out into the world, I'm on Instagram at Phoenix Stewart. You can also find the show on YouTube if you want to see it. It's out anywhere you find podcasts, so share with your friends. But you also can check us out on the TikToks. Where we put out clips from episodes from previous episodes all the way to, future ones coming out. And sometimes I do weird, goofy shit on there. You'll find little Easter eggs and stuff. But also you can find me streaming on twitch.tv/Phoenix Stewart, PhoenixStwrt. Every time I almost misspell my own name. I don't know how I do it. It's literally every episode.
You were born with it.
It's embarrassing. But yeah, check us out every Saturday from 7 to midnight, every Sunday from 9 p.m. to midnight, and every Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. That is 2 hours and not 14 hours.
Yeah.
There is we are currently swapping between Sea of Thieves and Baldur's Gate 3. Sundays seem to be the Baldur's Gate 3, depending on what's going on Sundays or Saturdays. It may vary and stuff, but we are trying to get our way through Baldur's Gate 3 with a twist. If you hang out in our chat during our live and we come up to big decisions that can either make or break the game, if you are first to comment, you get to decide what we do in the game. It's very fun. Some people will come in and absolutely wreck our situations. Some people come in and really help us out. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of laughs, but we have a good time, and that's why we do it. Other than that, is there anything else you want to say before we take this one out?
Nothing other than I love you.
Oh, I love you too. So as always, go outside, look up at the sky, feel the sun on your face, hug a tree, high five a squirrel, and I will catch you on the next one.